the increase of taxi fares?
Yeah, in late June, we introduced what we call the taxi fare index, which is a method we'll use to actually measure taxi fare increases. What it does, it actually measures all the costs associated with running a taxi business plus a profit, which is marked at about 15%. We then give that and then divide that according to the number of trips that you are doing, and that gives us a rate per commuter.
Well, I mean, like, how does it affect the pricing in as far as the fluctuation in the price of petrol? You know that it's increasing now, but perhaps after 2-3 months, the price of petrol may go down. Are you going to affect that?
First, I think I need to explain that the index is used to actually measure the varying cost of doing a taxi business. And I think it's going to bring some structure in terms of how this taxi fare is actually determined. But I think I need to firstly indicate that what we've discovered with our launch of this taxi fare index is that in some cases we're undercharging as high as about 60%. So until the point that we have reached the level where we are charging a market fare price, I think you can then see a situation in future where if petrol goes down, our prices also maybe might actually fluctuate. But as you know, Colin, things always goes up. So we hope that it's possibly unlikely that you'll see things going down.
Well, the petrol price in some instances was going down.
Yes.
But the taxi fares never came down.
No, and I think basically one needs to explain that the reason for it is that currently we are charging what we call a social fare, which is not a market-related fare, is what we think people can actually afford. And I think until the time when we're charging a market-related fare, we are unlikely to see taxi fares going down, but they will normally go up until we reach a point where, and hopefully with government coming in to subsidize the taxi industry, we can reach a point where fares are actually reasonable.
Now let's discuss other issues. The taxi industry has a problem with designated routes of Rea Vaya and Metro buses on most of the routes in Gauteng.
Yes.
Tell us, how do you want the model to work for the taxi industry? Do you want your own designated routes as well?
Absolutely. I think if you look at how, in terms of the number of people that we transport, the taxi industry transport about 65% of the commuting public, which is on a daily basis about 15 million people that are moving in actually taxi lanes, compared with buses that are moving about 13%. And I think the question is, why do you want to give people who are moving 13% of your commuters dedicated lane and then deprive taxis of their dedicated lane? So I think we believe that with the lanes that are there already, we can actually share with the buses to actually use the same lanes. So
but in the same token, the people are complaining. The general feeling of the public is that taxi drivers are a law unto themselves. They stop anywhere they like, any time of the day, and nobody's doing anything about it.
I think, Colin, if we can be given a place to stop, we'll definitely stop in that place. So taxis were actually not given a place to stop. So we stop exactly where people are saying they want to get off. But I think we need to push the blame back to commuters. I think commuters must also decide if you're going to get off. You get surprised, a person comes off now, a kilometer later another person wants to come off. I think people need to also start building structure in terms of how they actually get on and off the taxi.
How do you think this matter should be addressed? Because it looks like the motorists are the ones who are suffering on the road, and this leads to road rage. Sometimes a taxi driver just gets out of the taxi and may hit the driver, so people are even scared of complaining.
No, absolutely. I think we actually regret those incidents where taxi drivers are actually misbehaving. And I think that's what we actually don't preach. But I think what we're saying, I think it will be a combination of what government can do, what the commuters can do, and also the taxi industry itself. But definitely, I think we need to improve around that area.
The issue of training of taxi drivers, how far is the matter now?
We actually have launched the academy in 2011. We are going to start with our first intake before the end of this year. And I think there will be a number of delays around funding, etc. But I think we're actually turning that corner, and we believe that the academy will actually help to train drivers, taxi marshals, so that in terms of customer service and quality of service, it actually gets better.
Talking about customer service and safety as well.
Yes.
The recapitalization process was implemented, and we see new taxis on the road, but there are some old taxis that are unroadworthy. Yes. Why is that?
I think first I need just to point out that the taxi recapitalization program was a complete failure. It has not actually achieved its goals. Government wanted to remove all taxis, but I think the way it was designed, it was such that it does not encourage taxi operators to actually bring in all taxis. If I can just give you a quick example, an older taxi is more profitable than a new taxi, because then you're not paying anything. So the current structure that the taxi recap is done is not encouraging our members to come in and actually recap. But I think we're hoping that through new negotiations we're having with the Department of Transport, we'll have a better program that will lead to a point where there's newer taxis on our road. And I think that's what we want as a taxi industry. We don't like driving scrap taxis. I think we want to have a better service for our consumers.
Before you go,
yeah,
what does SANTACO say about reckless driving on South African roads. And this attributed to taxi drivers. They drive at high speeds. Many people get killed. I'm sure you will agree with me. Look at the carnage on the roads.
I think we're actually completely against that. And I think as SANTACO, we've launched a program called Hlokomela, which is aimed at improving road safety, particularly in the taxi industry. And I think since we launched it in 2011, we've seen a drastic drop in terms of taxi-related accident. But I think as SANTACO, we were clearly saying that we don't tolerate any things like that on our road. And I think we hope that our drivers will actually toe the line and actually behave.
All right. Thank you very much for talking to us. And that's the CEO of SANTACO, Nkululeko Buthelezi.